Hey guys, today is October the 10th and got my grandson Bentley with me today, and we are, as you can see, we're in a redneck blind. We're hunting the part of my property that I refer to as the twin plots. I've got a plot to the right, plot to the left. And we've been striking out all weekend. It's a youth season here in Georgia, and trying to get the grand boys a buck this weekend. But on this week's show, we're going to go back to this past Wednesday, October the 6th, and show you a hunt that I had with one of my hitless bucks, a buck that I came to call Gypsy. And during the show, you'll hear me refer to Gypsy several times as having 3 years history with him. Well, as I was going back through my library of trail cam photos over the last several years, I kept going back year after year after year, and I knew I had video of him. I knew I saw him a couple years ago. And it turns out it was in 2018, I think, is when I saw him, and he was just a small young 8-pointer. But he had a particular shape to him. He had a little dagger of a G2 that was always taller every year. And I even went back and found pictures of him from 2017. So I had more history with this deer than I actually realized, and I didn't give him a name until last year. I think I finally started calling him Gypsy because I was picking him up from the very north end of my property all the way to the very south end of my property, which is about 2 miles. But in the last year, he finally settled down right in the center of my property. And all this entire summer, I've been picking him up on one of my protein feeders right in the center of my property. Him and 2 other bucks. We're just bachelor grouped up all summer, feeding out of this protein feeder and using this particular bottom. And I knew they were there, and I did not hunt him for the first month of the season. Like I said, he's probably what I would call my number 2 buck, and that's only because of another buck that I called Chief, who I've got plenty of history with, but he fell off the radar about a week ago. So we'll profile him later. He's an incredible buck, a huge buck, but Gypsy, being a 5-year-old buck, is also a great deer to take. So on this particular night, I made the decision. I said, well, Chief is off the radar for right now. Let's run down here and see if I can get on Gypsy. And first night in, it happened. So check out this hunt. I think you're really going to enjoy it. Hey guys, today is Wednesday, October the 6th. And I wish I could tell you that I got a cool northeast breeze blowing, but it's the polar opposite. I got a south-southwest wind, humid. It's not hot. Temperature-wise, it's in the 70s, but with this humidity, it might as well be 90-something. It's ridiculous. The area that I'm in tonight, one buck in particular, a deer that I called Gypsy. He's a big 9-pointer. He should be 5.5 years old. I got 3 years history with him. I passed him up probably 10 yards from this tree that I'm in. I was in a different tree 2 years ago, but I passed him up. My number 1 buck, deer that I call Chief, is pretty much off the radar. Has been for a little over a week now. Like I said, I haven't been getting any pictures on my cameras the last couple of days, but this is a spot that I refer to as the shelf. Over the years, I've killed a lot of bucks and deer on this shelf. Killed a beautiful 9-pointer right here. Matter of fact, out of the tree that's a few feet over from me. I've got an old ladder stand leaning up against it. I shot him. I was a deer called Turk, and I shot him over a scrape right there. I can see a brand new scrape right in front of me. Even though I hadn't been in here, that wasn't there. These deer will walk this shelf. Traditionally they've done it for, I've been hunting this shelf close to 15 years now, and they will walk it. Fingers crossed, man. I would really like to put one of my 2 bucks down tonight, and then I can really concentrate on Chief. Hopefully we'll have a good evening. Hopefully it won't be too hot. Right there, he's dead. Just killed Gypsy. That was sweet. That's a deer I called Gypsy. 5 years, or 3 years history. I think that deer's 5 years old. He's a beautiful deer. Really nice deer. That's a 130-inch deer, I think. But he's 5.5 years old. I'm positive I heard him crash right straight down this lane. He went up, made a big loop, and came back down the hill. So, what an enjoyable evening. I had 2 young bucks come up first, a 4 or 6 pointer and a small 8 pointer. They came up and they sparred. I filmed them rubbing a tree, but something kept telling me that those deer were still down in that bottom. This bottom just holds deer. Incredible. Let's go get him. Let's get down and go get him. Somewhere right in here. There he is. There he is right there. Hot dog. Hot dog. All right, so here's the deer that I called Gypsy. Gypsy is a buck that I've got 3 years history with. I believe he's 5.5 years old. He's got a body big enough to be a 5.5-year-old. That's for sure. He's a big old deer. We're off and running. Hitless buck on the ground here in Georgia. I still got one more tag, so I'm still gonna be at it. Chief is #1 on the list. As long as he's showing up, he's gonna be the one I'm gonna be after. It's pretty much him or nothing for the rest of the year, unless I hear somebody's killed him. So appreciate you watching this week. God bless, and we'll see you on the next hunt.
It's the afternoon of October the 9th. We're back on the 504. We've got a really pretty 10 in an area that's just off of a creek. Went in and fertilized last weekend, and while we were in there, I noticed that there are tons of ripe muscadines on the ground. So that was pretty much my place and plan to go hunt. But then after pulling the Cutty Link images and going through those, the 7 and the 10 that we had kind of throughout the entire summer that hung real tight together, we didn't get a lot of patterning pictures of them, but it seems like since they've split up at the end of September, the 10 is showing up a lot more on camera, like literally morning and night where we're going. But I'm excited to go in and sit where we're gonna be. I know there's a lot of good natural source food there. It's kind of hot today, it's in the 80s. I think they tend to hang around the creek bottoms in the cooler areas here in Georgia when we've got these kind of temperatures. So we've got a thermocell locked and loaded, and we're gonna get set up, and hopefully once we get quiet and still, we'll see some deer. Well, on the way in, I saw some deer, so I stopped and knocked an arrow. And then realized that they were actually dogs that were chasing them. It was 2 big dogs. One of them looked like a pit mix. And I am definitely not a person that would ever shoot a dog, but it does make you think when the only thing you're holding is a bow in your hand and you're in between deer and the dogs that are chasing the deer. So we gave them a few minutes and I kind of made some noise and the dogs ran off. And unfortunately they ran kind of in the direction where we ended up sitting, so we're gonna hope for the best. Maybe it doesn't affect us too much. This is probably one of the prettiest creek sits I've ever sat in. You can look one direction and see as far as the eye can possibly imagine. Beautiful blue sky, fluffy white clouds, light breeze, crickets, frogs, muscadines on the ground, the trickle of water. It does not get any better. This is a beautiful place to be. this evening, once the dogs quit barking and it got quiet, it made it a lot better. We've had 2 small bucks walk underneath us and seen another, and it is prime time for the bigger guys to start walking around, so we're trying to be really still and really quiet. I've got the white hat in the serious position now. I'm ready and waiting. This will close it out for me. David will be up next.